Hey team, it's Megan. I decided, since some of you guys are still getting familiar with Relias and some of you guys maybe aren't as familiar with Relias, I was going to do a little series of online courses to help you kind of understand how to use Relias and what it can do. So for right now, I'm just going to kind of give you guys a little bit of a general overview, and then in other separate videos, I will show you how to do particular tasks. I'm going to use the SL Start Relias for right now. We do also have an Aspire one, and they do have slightly different modules that are loaded into them, but in general, the whole functionality is going to be the same. Once you log in, if you are a trainer, you should be listed as an administrator. You might also be listed as an instructor, sometimes supervisor, and then learner. The learner just gives you kind of like the front end, whereas the administrator is the back end. And as an administrator, we have access to do everything. So it's great, but we also have to be mindful of changes that we make will be made for the entire company. And so we don't necessarily want to like delete a module or enroll, people in something if we're not sure how that's going to impact, Washington or DDA. So there's just a couple things to kind of keep in mind. This is going to be your front page when you log in. So you're going to see over here the logo. That way you know if you're on the right page. You'll see a dashboard, training and enrollment, users, reports, settings, and Relias Connect. Depending on which organization you're logging into, it might default to the dashboard. Other times it'll default to training and enrollment. Doesn't really matter either way. Dashboard is going to give you your training performance, so that's how in compliance are these different groups. This is a little bit skewed because there's certain enrollments that people are in that aren't required, and people still getting used to Relias, and so they may not actually be that much out of compliance. It may just be a reporting issue and utilizing Relias, but that's part of why we're here. You'll see news. So these are actually going to be general news for the industry. So you can see things about medical history, trends, diagnoses, just kind of a cool development to start seeing kind of what's going on in the world. If you scroll down, it's going to tell you course updates. So Relias has constantly updated their kind of off-the-shelf courses. So you'll see which ones have been updated. We don't use all of these, but some of them are in use. We know if we're using them, like they're enrolled in a curriculum or assigned to someone, because it will say in use. So I'm assuming, I know for sure that I use the abuse and neglect. I'm assuming California uses that training, but I'm not 100% confident on that. But it doesn't necessarily relate to us, so that's okay. Okay. So if we scroll up, you're going to see the training and enrollment tab. This is where we're going to spend a majority of our time. And it can do a lot of things in here. You have the training plans. So these used to be called curriculum, but it's groupings of various modules. So like a training plan would be like new hire orientation. You have multiple topics that you're teaching in that, but it's one kind of curriculum. It's one plan. Or like quarterly end services. There's multiple trainings in there, but it's part of one greater kind of group. Here in Idaho, we don't use all of these. Remember, we share this with Washington, leadership, and a lot of other areas. So the ones that we primarily are going to focus on is the Idaho Blended New Hire Orientation, Idaho Annual Training, Idaho CPR First Aid. We'll start seeing Idaho New Hire Orientation will go away since we now have the blended learning. We'll use the quarterly end services, and that's about it. For the meantime, though, we don't want to touch or mess with a lot of these other ones because, again, it looks like other people may be using those. We just don't necessarily need to use those. From training plans, you also have modules. So these would be like the individual training topics. Again, we share these, and so there's a lot. Plus, Relias has its own over 1,000 built in. So when you go to modules, it's automatically going to default to all owners. If you are wanting to look at a Relias course that's already in there, this would be a good place for you. You can search, it'll bring it up through everything. If I'm wanting to look through stuff that we've developed, it's probably going to be under SL Start. I don't recommend using a whole lot of the courses under Embassy Management because we don't have the ability to go in and edit and change those versus the SL Start ones we do, so they're likely going to be more applicable to our needs in the moment. And we get the nice little loading screen. Okay, so now it's filtered out just the ones that have been loaded in by SL Start. And you'll notice there already are some duplicates of things. Preferably, we wouldn't want to have duplicates. We want all locations to use the same. That way we're not having a bajillion of the same thing, but we will get into that a little bit later. You also might see that there's certain little things like a one-time training. I wouldn't recommend making a whole module for that. I would recommend putting that under additional location specific trainings, and in the notations of that event writing that's what that event was for. Remember, we share this with the entire company, so to help it be a little bit easier for us to find it, I did put ID or Idaho in front of the ones that are going to be applicable to us. So we kind of just have a nice little short section of this. That's what we have to worry about. And you guys will be able to see in the facilitator guides, it now has a screenshot of the actual module that will be used for that particular lesson. If we keep scrolling down, you'll see the ones that say Lewiston, Mountain Lake Terrace, and then further on you got Spokane, and then the WAC. Don't worry about any of those. Those are being used by Washington or up north, and we don't want to mess with their things because we also don't want them messing with our things. So that's what you're going to see under modules. External training templates, we don't really worry a whole lot about that since we don't have any external trainings that we're loading into Relias. Video files, career path certificates, those are things that we could potentially use in the future, but we haven't quite gotten to that point quite yet. If we go back up here to this top row, we'll head over to users. Once you're in users, you will notice that it's going to show all of the active users. So this is anyone who is listed active in ADP. Relias syncs with ADP every night, and so any changes that have been made and finalized in ADP should show up in Relias the next day. If you start to notice that there's people that are showing terminated in ADP or active in ADP and it's been more than 24 hours and the changes haven't gone over to Relias, please put in a troubleshoot ticket so we can make sure that we're addressing that. Alright, so again in the users you're going to notice it is all SL Start locations. I may not want to see, you know, all of these Seattle and various other companies because I don't have anything to do with them. So my options are I can come over here to filter, and I can filter by a variety of different options. I usually just filter by hierarchy because then I just get all of Boise with one click. And we don't have licensed home in SL Start, we just have supported living. So I click here, and then I know all these employees listed are going to be active SL Start Boise employees. There we go. Over here you'll see the line that indicates that they're active. There are occasions that you might see a line like this where it is white. That means that they're on leave. And again, that syncs with ADP. So there could be various reasons why they're on leave, but we can assume they are still actively employed but maybe not actively working. These little heads that you see right over here on the role section means that they have been given additional responsibilities on Relias. So for example, this person has instructor responsibilities, meaning he can be listed as an instructor. This lady over here has supervisor activities, so she can see employees that are unlisted under her in ADP and run reports for them. We as administrators can choose who gets these various accesses. Alright, then right over here I have reports. There are a lot of different reports that Relias offers. We currently are not fully utilizing Relias to its capacity, and so a lot of these reports we would be using if we had more robust of an e-learning program, but we just aren't quite using quite that much e-learning in our organization right now. So in another video I'll show you kind of how to run the certain reports that might be applicable to what you want. We also have settings. These are Relias settings. Be very careful about here because again, this is for the entire website. And then Relias Connect, which is kind of our help group. So these are the various options that we as administrators in Relias have access to. Feel free to stay tuned. There'll be a couple more videos that'll walk you through a little bit more of each of the different abilities in these steps.